Now, we've got some new members of the team because we bruised the last ones and they've not turned up again. So Phil Colgan had to go back to the Sydney hub, and Lionel, I don't know, I think he's got other things to do. I can't imagine what that'd be, but... Great to have you all back up. We've gone through a bunch of material. Second, Murray, lovely to have you. Now, react. Give us your thoughts. What are some things that have struck you over the last couple of days? What are the things you think need further pursuit and wrestling with? Go for it.
I absolutely loved Graham's emphasis on small group leaders not being mini pastors. But as he was talking, it's something I've believed a long time, but I can feel myself slipping back into that rut at times. And as I was listening, I was thinking, I think the reason I'm slipping back into that rut is just a deep desire to see other people do the work with me when I'm tired, and wanting other people to really take responsibility, and wanting other people to grab a hold of serving Jesus wholeheartedly. And so I think, they should do this. They love Jesus heaps. And I fall into the rut of that, wanting them to be a mini pastor. And so that challenge was something I held as a conviction, but need to keep reassessing as a practice, and realising you can hold a conviction, but you need to really work hard at keeping it as a practice.
Very helpful, Joe. Thank you. Other reactions, thoughts, comments? Just broadly at the moment, I've got questions to ask. They're coming in, but let's get some shoot from the hip. Yeah,
I guess where I'm at the moment, I think a conference like this serves to give you lots of food for thought, and sometimes you don't come to conclusions or decisions during the course of the conference, but you go away and you start mulling it over. And my team's not with me, unfortunately. They much prefer to be in Melbourne, as do all sensible people. But
Isn't it the state on the move? Out? Oh, you've changed that number plate, haven't you? Yeah.
Yes. All right. So
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
You win that argument, man. All right. But even the concept of the ecosystem, and I think is incredibly helpful. And that's one thing that I'll go back to our team, and to be asking the question about how are we maturing people? How is each aspect of the life of the church moving toward that end? Are we doing that well? Are we not doing that well? And the stuff about overemphasizing growth groups and putting too much into them, we've already been there, and we're addressing that. But yeah, it'd be good to examine all the rest of the bits and pieces of the life of the church.
It's good. Murray, now...
Which one?
Oh, yes. Murray Capel.
It's Murray the Elder. He's known in Melbourne, he's Murray the Elder.
Murray the Elder. Yes. All right, nice.
Murray C or Murray C?
Yes, that's true too.
Wow, you Victorians. Reformed theology. You've worked in a principal of Reformed College for many years and so on. Thoughts about God's sovereignty and human responsibility? Love to hear them. Solve this conundrum for us.
Look, I'm with what you were saying. In fact, I've enjoyed last night and today the both ands. We've had that on a few fronts. Both church planting and established churches. Both massive on the word. I don't think we can be too massive on the word, and massive on doing stuff, on action, and actually massive on applying the word, pressing it, working it into people's hearts and lives, which is nitty-gritty. That's cultural stuff, that's practical stuff. That's both and, not either or. And so I think the same with our theology. God is 100% sovereign. That drives all our confidence. That drives our hope. That's what Gary was talking about. It drives our prayer. If God was not sovereign, I think we'd just give up in ministry and get out of it. But precisely because he is sovereign, it is worth taking action. It's worth trying stuff. It frees us to take risks. And it enables us to take responsibility. So I don't think it's an either or. I think turning that into an either or is opting for hyper-Calvinism. I'm a Calvinist, and I think as a Calvinist you believe in the sovereignty of God, and with his enabling and his grace, and with the wisdom and the skills that he gives you and the people he puts around you, you do stuff for his glory.
Yeah, helpful. Let's pick up some questions here. So we've talked about lowering the bar of the entry point for new leaders of small groups. How low should we realistically be setting the bar? Graham, so what are you doing out there?
Yeah, it's a great question. For us...
It's from Ben.
Oh, Ben. For us, a lot of it is about actually trajectory. So it's not that we just have anyone in small group leadership, but it's not that they've made it. You know, it's the person who is showing a trajectory towards Jesus first, kingdom-mindedness, the things of Christ first. Person who is on the trajectory towards growing in Christ-likeness, godly character developing. The person who is on the trajectory to, I want to be deeper in the Word. I want to be growing in the Word. I am moving in that direction. And the person who is, I'm with you. I'm aligned. I want what we all want together. So there is a standard. It's not we just have anyone in there, but it's not that they've made it. It's that they show promise of moving in that direction. And then we work very hard at supporting and caring for and developing them so that the experience is positive and they do move forward.
That's very good.
But sometimes you need to take risks.
Yeah. And we're not, that's a rut. We're not good at taking risks in our world. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as you're talking, Graham, I was thinking, they're up for the conversation of this is the vision of a group. This is what we're trying to achieve. You seem to love it. Let's talk about that together and let's talk about how you can be part of it. I love that when someone is responsive to that idea, let's talk about what this group is about and how you could be part of it. And I think that's the spark you're looking for, all those things you described, I think. Yeah. That's what we would call an appointment conversation, where someone's willing to keep talking about this idea of what maturity is about and what we would love for them to be part of with us.
Yeah. Tell us about leaders in training. How do you get that happening? Because there's a pipeline that means you're not, come the end of the year, as you do have to hunt around and so on, you've got what we call a reserve bench waiting. Is that right? So.
Yeah. It's always hard work, creating, training, developing new leaders. One of the great things you've got if you've got a small group network, we call them growth groups, is you've got eyes on all the people in the network. So if you're actually able to mobilise your leaders to be thinking about who in their groups is a possible candidate for a potential future leader in training, that's a fantastic thing. You've got a lot of information, people to work with. And then we need to work with all the other areas of church life. You don't want to snap up all the great leaders into the small groups ministry. It just harms the rest of church. So we've got to have some sort of process of working through that. But once people, are approved, there's agreement, let's get the person as a leader in training. One of the key things is we want them in a group with a leader, ideally a great leader, but not always, in a group with a leader, where they can watch the leader, but then 2-3 times a term they have a good shot at it. They have a go, they get feedback from the leader. So we actually try to train our leaders to train leaders in training.
Yeah.
We have community leaders who come along and watch groups who help both leaders and leaders in training get better. And we do provide material, so talking head type stuff, but a lot of it's online, that they can watch and use to give them ideas. But the heart of it is giving it a shot, reflecting on how it's going, getting feedback from someone, giving it another shot.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. I want to go, the two Murrays, I want to go, Murray, for you, how this works out in your church. Can you see this, someone with a smaller number of growth groups? Is that something you can imagine functioning or may have functioning already? And Murray, the elder, how do you see, as you get young men and women coming to a Bible college, how do you see the formation happening for them? So let's go with Murray, you first. Yeah, big church, small church.
We're a small church.
Yeah. So how might this work out in your context?
I think we're kind of doing that already. I think our issue is we don't do it consistently. But I think it is something that we try to do, and when we do it well, we do see the rewards in doing that.
So what's the challenge for consistency, do you think? What makes it difficult to be consistent with it?
I think just the demands of ministry. And so you focus and concentrate on an area of ministry. I don't actually look after our growth groups at Mentone. My associate does. But you pour your energy into that for a bit, and then there's something else over here which demands all your energy and your time, and you're dealing with that, and then you drop the ball a bit. And so it's something that we always come back to. So the consistency is actually not to drop that ball.
Yeah, okay. You want to...
Yeah, it's always difficult. It's always difficult raising leaders, but having someone intentionally over the area, and with one of the key outcomes is we need to develop more leaders, helps to make it happen heaps.
Yeah.
And especially if you're thinking, I'm doing this all the time, I don't want to get into that situation where January, February is coming and I don't have any leaders. I'm going to just chip away, because it's a chipping away work rather than a last minute, let's rush.
Would you set targets for leaders?
We set targets for leaders. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by a certain time, we want a number of... Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And you don't always hit them, but...
Yeah. It's same with you guys? Would you set targets for leaders?
We probably wouldn't set it. I just want to clarify, when you say set target for leaders, do you mean you'd say to a leader, we need you to recruit this many more leaders? Yeah, we probably wouldn't be that explicit. We definitely would want to say, okay, here's how we're hoping to grow next year. Let's make a bold 10, 15% growth for this congregation, for instance. That means we're going to need this many people in groups. That means we're needing, for instance, 2 or 3 more groups, one night women's group, one night men's group, one mixed group. And we're aiming for all that. And the whole team knows that we're praying for that. Oh, we're also going to need some more CLs or L2s to coach and lead these leaders. So we're going to need to build some more of those people up as well. All right, we're all together that. Let's pray now for that kind of growth.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Now, Murray, so in terms of lots of young men and women coming to be formed, what do you see as some of the keys? What do you see has significant wins in producing that formation? You must have thought about this.
Yeah, we've wrestled a lot with, how do you do spiritual formation and theological formation? Couple of things come to mind. I mean, one is just being realistic about what a theological college can and can't do. And we really try to rigorously resist the idea that a theological college is a substitute for a local church.
Yeah.
It does a lot of churchy sort of things. It's not your church. And I still think a person's prime spiritual formation and ministry formation happens in the local church. So you'd actually need really good relationships between churches and colleges. But then within the college, it's often been the model that spiritual formation is a course you do, or there are these extracurricular spiritual formation activities. Look, you can do it that way, but we're kind of pushing back on that and saying spiritual formation has to happen in every course that we teach.
Yeah, nice.
So whether you're doing theology or church history or ministry stuff, or languages, like even the way you teach Greek and Hebrew, that's got to be spiritually formative. And the heart of that is actually the lecturer. Nothing is more formative than who's on faculty and their spirituality, their leadership, their gospel heart, their love of the word. That's going to be probably more formative than anything else.
Which, if you were just to draw a long bow and suggest a principle that applies to churches, how might that apply?
So, sorry, say that again?
If you were to draw a long bow and just sort of radically imagine how that principle applies into churches, how might that be?
Yeah, it's not a real long bow, is it? Like, it's again this thing of who we are is the most formative thing. And that's why perhaps you can lower the bar in some ways on your small group leader, because if that guy or girl is, close to the Lord and full of the gospel and loves people, even if they haven't got skills way up here yet, they're going to be gold.
Yeah. And also, one of the things we imagine, if you've got a strong pulpit and a strong senior leadership team, you can cope with lower bars elsewhere. But if you haven't got a strong central leadership team, you need to be far more careful with the bar you draw elsewhere. So it's paying attention to that system and how it works.
And you know more about this than me, but I imagine early days on in a new church particularly,
I ran all the growth groups.
you've got to watch the leadership of the growth groups because
Yeah.
it could go very, very badly.
Yeah. I ran all the growth groups. Yeah, that's right. But as time went on and the centralised leadership pulpit established and developed, and where we're going developed, you could take more risks. Yeah, that's right. What's the place of one-to-one mentoring in maturing people in church?
Again, such a good question. We like one-to-one's awesome, and you get super results from one-to-one ministry. We're of the conviction that you can't do cross-the-board structured one-to-one and small group work really, really well. You've got to choose which one you're going to do. So if you're going to get heaps of one-to-one work going, they're going to be the people who could lead your small groups or the people who would be in your small groups. So you either do that or the small groups. And the one-to-one will mean you impact a smaller number of people to, say, 85%, and the small groups will mean you impact a massively larger number of people to, say, 78%. Who knows? Yeah, it's just about that.
That's been our results, has it? Yeah.
Who knows? So we do encourage people to meet one-to-one, but it's ad hoc. It's not, we haven't created a structure to do one-to-one mentoring. We encourage staff to do it through all their meetups with all the people who are running ministry under them, all their direct reports, but also a reasonable amount of one-to-ones with congregation members for their personal growth.
Joe?
I'd also want to be being really clear about what one-to-one ministry is. I think sometimes in women's ministry, if we call it women's ministry, one-to-one ministry can seem like I listen for a long time to someone's issues and then we might crack open the Bible in the last 5 and 10 minutes and maybe squeeze some prayer in there. So I would want to be coaching, even if I'm not, I would be in agreement with you, Graham, in terms of the priority of small groups and one-to-ones. I agree. But I'd also want to, at some point, be doing some coaching, offer some training on how do you do a one-to-one, even if I'm not going to set up a structure around it, so that a woman knows, we're going to confidently go into God's word, we're going to spend a lot of time in there, we're going to indulge, and that's going to be so satisfying that I'm going to want to keep doing that. I might not be able to be doing it part of a structure, but I'm absolutely confident I can do this, and we're going to pray, we're going to grow, and it's not going to be us chatting that's going to get the job done, it's going to be the Spirit.
That's helpful. That's good. It's worth, you observed the difference between a university context and a suburban context. I'd offer that this is another one of the differences, that in a university context, you've got a people-rich environment, lots more young adults with more time, though they don't think they've got time. Wait till they get out of uni and they'll realise they always had. But, they've got more time, relatively speaking, to your suburban commuter and what have you. So people-rich, time-rich, relatively speaking. So you can pull off a high-level one-to-one and small group and ministry teams a little more than you can pull off in a suburban context. Yeah. Is that fair?
I think it's true. We still do encourage one-to-one, not in a structured way, but we do encourage people to do it. But we often do it for a season rather than, you're just going to keep meeting together forever and a day. And it is meeting with a purpose. So we're reading the scriptures together, we are wrestling through issues together. And we've seen results, really positive fruit come out of that. But we do, understand, for people who are time poor, you can't do everything, but neither do we want to discourage people from doing it. So it's there, and we encourage it as much as possible, but we understand the buy-in's not 100%. Yeah.
Very good. Let me hit with another question. I'm sure we can make time for this one. Yeah, no one's rushing. That's all right. Yeah, pull that off. So your Bible study leaders will only be as good as the person who trains them. Is that true? Do you think your small group leader training is limited by your own limitations?
Yes and no. So, often because you're giving it a shot, you're practicing, you're reflecting, sometimes you actually surpass the person who's training you. You actually have better gifts, you're more reflective, and you do things better. So it's not always the case that you're capped by the person who led you. There is, however, something about if the person who leads you is really great, they're going to give you a real leg up. They're really going to help you along the way. But if you can build the whole structure so that it doesn't all fall upon that relationship, that is a key relationship, but there is also, we have community leader input. There is also Bible study materials that are provided. We provide studies, a little video that goes along with that to, again, give them a leg up, help them how to think about how to look at the passage. Training that goes along with that. The opportunity to talk to, create a context where they talk with other leaders, how they're going. You've got lots of inputs that move towards the output. It's not all resting on that piece. Though that is a key piece. Yeah.
Joe, you get the final word.
Oh, no. I think the art of recruiting people into ministry is seeing and celebrating and telling people where they're gifted by God. And so I absolutely agree with what you're saying, Graham, and being able to articulate, hey, you're really good at this thing here, and I'm actually not as good at that. How do we find a way to see you use those gifts? And how do I get out of your way so you can do that? So there's a woman in my team. She is just excellent at being a self-starter, going and finding people, getting their stories to the MAG team so that people can be hearing stories of growth. I'm not good at that, but she's great at it. So my job is actually just to get out of her way, to see it, help her see it, and just let her go. And so, yeah, helping people be equipped and then seeing it, naming it, and so they can do it.
Very good. Well, thank the panel as they get down.